Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Boink podcast. Today, I wanted to talk about animal rights for the topic of today's video because I think a lot of humans just think that they are better than animals. And we're all animals, but you know what I mean. And they immediately think that because we just have a lot of intelligence and better technology, I suppose. And that's not how it is at all because all species are equal. So I feel like this should be talked about more, just how selfish people can be. So I wanted to spread awareness about that today because especially now animal rights are not talked about enough. So I wanted to talk about my personal opinions about it. And first, I made a presentation when I was 16 or so about animal rights and how important they are. So hopefully I convinced a few more people in my class about that. And I had to choose from a list of controversial topics because everyone had to do their own topic about that. And as soon as I saw animals, I chose that. So first, I wanted to talk about the treatment of animals in circuses because that is the most common place for them to be mistreated. It's not a zoo or at home or anything like that. They still get mistreated really horribly there, but the most common is at a circus. Back then, I don't know about now, but back then, 99% of animals who would go into a circus, like elephants or lions, common animals in circuses, they would get abused really badly because they're just not in good conditions. I mean, being stuck into a little cage when you're an elephant, it's already not good for an animal like a little dog or anything like that. But being stuck in a cage where it barely fits you, like you're just taking up all of the space in one place, that's not good. And a lot of the practices that they had in the zoos were just straight up abusive, like doing insane tricks on them that can obviously hurt their backs and everything like that. As soon as I saw some circus acts when I was younger and there were animals within it, I asked myself why, because it immediately just looked so weird to me. It didn't look right. And I was right, because doing just a little research, because I've always been interested in circuses, clowns and things like that. Upon just doing a tiny bit of research, I started to realize it's mostly not good. There was a case a while ago about an elephant who died or got insanely injured because of their owner, or her owner. So these things are much more common than people think, and circuses are not as popular as they used to be, so less people know. But also, luckily, they're not getting a whole lot of funding in order to get these animals in the first place. At least here. I don't know about other countries, but they're not common here at all. So in order to go to a circus, I had to go to one a few hours away from me that came from Italy. So, maybe they're a little less common, but it's still happening. So, because we talked about one place where they're mistreated, I also wanted to talk about another, which I mentioned before, zoos, because places like SeaWorld and just regular zoos obviously don't have enough space or food. That is not unusual to happen today. when you hear about SeaWorld in Ohio, which got shut down, luckily, after a while, they had Shamu, the original orca who people believed was getting abused, and it turned out to be 100% true. She didn't have enough space. She only had dolphins to hang around for a long time, so often to where she ended up being able to mimic them. She's an orca, but she could mimic dolphin sounds because they were the only other animal that she was around, up until she had a male companion for a little while. They would also ship her around to different SeaWorlds for a long time. And obviously, when an animal is supposed to just be in the ocean and that's all, but they're getting taken to a bunch of different parks where they have to do the same exact tricks every time, and they're probably in a little compartment thing that's not comfortable for them, it is so cruel to expect them to be completely okay with this. And it was so obvious that she was depressed at some points. So basically, I'm not going to SeaWorld anymore because they're still doing this. This is still something that happens because I don't think it's only with the orcas. It's with the other animals too, so I'm not funding them. And nobody should. So then we have the topic of zoochosis, which is something that happens in any zoo setting where an animal can be behind a glass and they have the little space that they're in, and they just go around in circles or in a straight line all day. And a lot of people who go into these zoos think, oh, it's cute, they're following my hand, when they're not. They're just going back and forth because this is the only environment they know. They are stuck in the same place 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And people just look at it and think it's cute when it's so obvious that they're suffering. You don't have to look too deep into it to realize that there is something really weird going on. So the thing is, this doesn't happen in all zoos. A lot of people, not a lot, but some people are completely anti-zoo, like they do not want any animals in them ever. But they are failing to realize that some of them do have good environments for the animals, and it's just like a rehabilitation center. They let them out as soon as they're better. That is the type of zoo that is completely fine. I don't have a problem with that, and nobody else should, because if an animal is out in the wild and they're just suffering all the time, it is good for a human who actually cares to take them and put them in their zoo for a limited amount of time, get them better, give them medicine, give them some exercises to do, and then let them go back out into the wild. That's completely fine. In fact, I recommend it. It's just a lot of them do not do that. They claim to be a rehabilitation center and things like that, but they keep the animal for too long, or they put them in a place that they're not comfortable in, or they don't give them enough food, or not enough water, any of these things. So I don't think being anti-zoo is completely good because they fail to recognize the good things that they can do. It's just very hard to tell sometimes. You go into a zoo and it may look completely fine on the outside, but you never realize what's happening on the inside. That's kind of what happened with SeaWorld. Especially for younger people, they can't tell what's going on because they're so young. They just see an orca and think, oh, so cute, so cool. And they don't realize that they are getting abused. Even older people, they don't realize it too because it looks completely normal. But then you start thinking about it a little bit, and it's not at all. So I recommend doing research about zoos or aquariums, like the specific ones you're going to, before you go into them, because do you really want to fund someone who is abusing animals? It may be a little fun to go in there and look at your favorite animals, but it is so much better to leave them alone if they're not treating them well. There are also protesters who stand outside of zoos who are obviously mistreating the animals. This is something that anyone can do because protesting can work. I think a lot of people just think that protesting is stupid and it doesn't do anything, but it's the way a lot of different laws have been passed that people have wanted for years. So it's always worth it. You can always try your best, even if it's just signing a petition. Anything simple like that. So another topic I wanted to speak about is the amount of animals that I've seen on the road for the past 2 years or so. And it's not just because I started driving and I'm more in tune with what's going on in front of me. No, this has been happening since before I started driving, which is a little over 2 years ago. And I will be looking out the window while a parent is driving or a friend is driving, and there's just a raccoon on the side of the road. I've noticed raccoons a lot. They're very common to be there. I also noticed an armadillo, I believe. That's a very rare animal. How are they out there? Just on the road. And how could you not see that? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me how there are so many animals getting run over now versus a few years ago, because a while ago I didn't really notice this. But now, every single time I go out on the road, there is at least one animal who is run over or injured in some way. Luckily, in some places, they've made it illegal to mistreat animals on the road, but it should be illegal everywhere. I totally understand that, especially at night when you're driving and you see an animal, you will accidentally run them over, for sure, because things happen and it's not our fault. It's just the amount of times I've seen it happen. It's like sometimes there is no way that it's an accident, or you just straight up don't care, which is weird. I don't care how much you dislike an animal. If you just see a little creature going across the road and you think, oh, I'm not gonna stop or anything, why? Like, I don't understand. That's a whole other being in front of you, and you don't care? I don't know. I think you have to be a certain type of person to do that. And on that topic, there are also people who, this isn't exactly about animal rights, it's just something that annoys me regarding them and humans. So a lot of people will claim to love all animals, all life forms and things like that, but then they'll hate like every bug. You know, if it's a phobia, that's fine. I understand. I have a phobia of some spiders. We all do, in a way, right? But if you are one of those people who just will kill any bug in sight, even when they're outside, just because they're there, and you're like a little bit scared, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it to kill another form of life just because you don't exactly like them? You have to think about the fact that that little bug may have a whole entire family. They may have an entire colony. And you just cause a distress to the animal itself, and also the rest of the family. And you think just because they're smaller than you, it makes them less important, which is not how it works, obviously. Just because an animal is super small compared to you, it doesn't mean that they don't mean anything. Okay, my cat is running around the house. If you couldn't hear that, she won't stop. Speaking of pets, also needed to speak about how a lot of people will buy an animal without knowing how to even take care of them, which is an interesting concept to me, because how do you go in a pet store, see a little guinea pig, and just like, yeah, I'm gonna get them? Meanwhile, the only animal you've owned before is a cat. Do they just immediately think that they know everything about owning an animal because they've owned one before? Because all pets are different. For example, some people wouldn't think that raising a bunny is very difficult, but it can be. You have to buy a lot of specific things for them, much like any other animal, but compared to a cat or a little hamster or a fish, they are very difficult. And some people will think, oh, well, they're small, so they won't need much. Again, with the thing about being small, a small animal, that's not true. Bunnies need a very specific diet, specific amount of everything. They need a little, or actually a huge environment to walk in throughout the day. You have to stay home with them very often. You have to clean up the cage very often too. Nothing wrong with that. It's just people need to learn that before buying one. Because I saw a guinea pig being bought on a recording a few weeks ago, and this woman said, I don't know how to raise a guinea pig, but I kind of want one, so I'm gonna buy them. Right, because that's how it works. Before buying a pet, please make sure to research how to raise them, because it's dumb to buy an animal without knowing how to raise them. You see a little snake in a store and you think, oh, really cute. But then you have like a phobia of rats or something, and you have to feed the snake a rat. And they eat them live, right? Like, and little crickets too, all these other things. I think people are just very ignorant when it comes to buying animals. They just think, well, I've done this before with a different animal, so I can do it again with a different one. That's not how it works. It's not. So then another topic is about humans building on animals' land, because there are still nature preserves and trails that you can go on where nature is all over, but they're kind of rare, because people will see a space of land that obviously belongs to animals, like you can see little bugs or anything in the grass, and people will think, yeah, I want to build a McDonald's there. It's like those memes that you see sometimes where someone is in some beautiful nature area with a mountain and some beautiful green grass in front of them, and the little description says, whoa, a McDonald's would be great here. And it's very humorous, but it's something that actually happens. I bet if a billionaire saw that, they would say, I could make some money out of this. Question is, how does your brain immediately go to money when you see something so beautiful and sacred where so many animals live? Deer, snakes, There's so many animals who can live in that area, and you just tear it down so that they have a little bit less of area to live in. And it's not fair. And also, there are some terms that annoy me regarding animals. Shark infested water. Okay, so that's their home. I don't know what anyone means by infested. When you go to the beach, you set up a towel, and then you go into the water, and you see a shark and think, oh, these waters are shark infested. You went there. I don't know. Like, I don't know what people expect. When you go to, when you get deep in the water, there's gonna be a lot of animals there because you went there and it's their home. It's another reference to a meme I saw where it said exactly what I said. Shark infested water, that's their home. And yeah, it's funny, it's also true. Because obviously, sharks can be really dangerous. They have killed people. It's normal to be scared of them. If I was in the water with a shark, I would be scared. And they sense fear. It's a little terrifying, I get it. But I feel like films like Jaws and the publicity of them being these terrifying creatures, all these insane drawings of them looking terrifying, are just not fair to the animal themselves, because they are not very violent creatures. There are certain types that are more dangerous than others. Great white and bull shark, kind of tiger shark too. There's a bug in front of me. Okay. Those can be pretty dangerous, I get it. But don't call it infested when you chose to go into their home. I don't understand. So then I've seen a lot of content about people abusing these pleco sharks. I think that's how you pronounce it. I used to actually have one of these. They're very cute. If you need to look them up, go ahead. They look very sweet. Didn't do anything wrong, but people will abuse them. They basically run science experiments on them. So these little plecos will be sitting there in a tank or something because they're very common as pets, and a human will take them out. If there are two, they will tie them to each other. Tell me, how sick in the mind does someone have to be to do this and get enjoyment out of it? Do it in the first place. To see a little pleco shark, these things are literally like this big, by the way. They're called sharks. They're really small. That's why they're common as pets. Because as a kid, I would always say, I really want a pet shark, and I was talking the huge ones. You can get the baby ones as actual pets. They're so small. They're cute. The question is, how do you see these little babies and think, yeah, I want to attach one to another so that they can suffer? Okay, and then the other animal that I've seen this type of thing with is a cockroach. A lot of people hate cockroaches. I don't hate them, but they scare me a little bit. I mean, a few weeks ago there was one in my bathroom. There are every once in a while. And I picked up something from underneath the sink, crawled right on me. It was terrifying. I understand. Especially when it's unexpected. When you see them, but it's expected, like you know they're gonna be around. It's a bit scary, but I had no idea they were in there. because it doesn't happen often. So that was scary. I understand having a phobia of them. I mean, we all have random phobias that we can't really explain. So anytime someone is scared of anything, I'm not one to judge. It's just there's a horrible machine that people use on cockroaches to torture them because they hate them so much. There are also people who will kill small animals on recording for entertainment, and I don't care if it's just a cockroach or an animal that people really don't like. A lot of the time there are videos of people being scared of spiders, and I totally get that. I mean, once a spider gets past like that size, I'm like, ooh, I don't want a part of this. Because I like spiders themselves. Like, looking at photos, I can get a little scared, but it's not too bad. I find them interesting, that's the thing. But, you know, once you get past a certain point, it is scary. I get it. It's just people are so violent towards animals, and it's so normalized to where it is so cruel. I don't understand why there is so much violence towards animals, especially really small ones. I think people pick favorites. Because nobody, well, most people will not hurt a cat or a dog or any popular animal like that, but then they see a praying mantis or something, they think, ooh, that looks weird. I don't see that often, so it's bad. I think that's the process of their mind, and it's not fair at all. I can't understand it, and I don't think I ever will, because a lot of people will say, I love animals, and then they hate every type of bug. It's like, that's not how it works. You can't say that you love all animals and then you hate an animal. That's not fair. I have some animals who I have major phobias of. Kangaroos, I could probably never set foot in Australia because they have kangaroos, tarantulas, things like that. I'm scared of stuff like that. And it makes sense. I've watched a lot of kangaroo videos, and it's like uncanny valley. They're not supposed to look like that, I feel like. But I don't hate them. I will say I'm scared of them and I don't want to be around them. But here's the thing, I don't want to kill them. I hope their little babies, what are they called, joeys? I hope their little joeys live a fulfilling and beautiful life. I don't wish anything bad on them. I just do not want to be around one, even if they're at a zoo or something. So, yeah, that's my thoughts about animal rights. I just can't understand why people continue to fund places that are obviously abusing animals just because it's a little fun. Wow, I get to go on the Mako roller coaster. They're probably abusing their Makos themselves. Seems like they just abuse every animal they have. And it's not fair. I don't know how people can see this and not think about the injustice of it, while also thinking that protesting will do absolutely nothing. I don't know, it's just not fair. I feel like humans are just really selfish. They think that because we're smart, even though we're able to recognize that some other animals are super smart too, we just are so mean to pretty much all animals. It's more common with certain ones, but yeah. Anyway, the next podcast episode will probably be about Little Shop of Horrors. I may plan that ahead of time, just telling everyone what the topic for the next episode will be. If I have it in mind, sometimes I won't. But yeah, maybe about Little Shop of Horrors. Not completely sure. It's just a suggestion from my friend, and I agree with it because it's something that I like a lot. So I hope everyone has a great day. Make sure to sign petitions and spread awareness about animal rights if you care about it. And everyone should, especially now. So, bye.